Okay, good evening. Thank you, Patricia, for the kind introduction. Dr. Katunda ended her keynote with a call for action. And I would like to take it from there, as this call for action not only comes from the research, but it's also being echoed by the policymakers. So a few months ago, the Ministry of Health published a national plan for managing mental health in Luxembourg, and they called to implement measures to improve early detection of difficulties and promote early intervention. Another call came from the Observatory for Children and Youth, and they are asking to design a school well-being barometer. Now, I really believe that measuring plays a critical role in achieving the goals of early detection and early intervention. And the benefit of early detection is not just about preventing mild issues from escalating into larger, more serious conditions, but there is also an academic benefit. So here is a study from Australia with over 3,000 students showing that higher levels of well-being lead to better performance in math on the left and reading on the right. And frankly, this should not surprise anyone because we already know about ourselves. When we feel better, we perform better. So in the next few minutes, I will share a real case example of how these calls for action can be translated into practice in a school setting. So our story takes place in India. It's far away, but I believe relevant everywhere. We're talking about a chain of private schools located in an urban area in the center of India. The data you will see comes from one of the secondary schools with some 300 students, teenagers, and the data, of course, is anonymized. The process we applied consisted of 3 steps in line with what I mentioned before. So the first step is about measuring well-being in the school. The second one is about detection, so identifying issues and areas for improvement. And the third one about intervention, so in which we supported the school in planning their interventions. So we started by gathering well-being information. For that, we used online questionnaires that went to students, parents, and teachers. This allowed us to receive a holistic view of every student. The questionnaires covered 8 well-being elements, including social, emotional, physical, and digital well-being. And we collaborated with a professor from Oxford University to ensure that the questions are concise and effective. So for example, the question, I feel safe in school, contributed to the students' perspective on safety and belonging. And the question, my child's screen time is well managed, contributed to the parents' point of view on digital well-being. We then gathered all the information and created individual well-being reports for every student and aggregated the data into class reports, year group reports, and overall school report. So now let's take a look at some of the results. Here is the overall school dashboard. We use the traffic light system to indicate higher and lower scores. On the top right is the overall well-being score for the school, and on the left, a spider chart that illustrates the 8 elements, where you can start noticing stronger areas and areas for improvement with physical and digital well-being, the major areas for improvement across the school. Now, of course, this is quite broad, and we need to look deeper to gain further understanding. So here are a few examples from the report, starting with the positive one. 97% of the students are happy to go to school, to that school, at least in some of the days. Only 9 students reported that they are not. Of course, each case should be looked at, but overall, it's a great result. However, when we look at the physical well-being, over half of the students reported no physical activity or very little. I think that is a somewhat in line with the data Dr. Katunda showed before. And nearly half of the students do not get enough sleep before school days. Looking at the stress levels, half of the students reported they feel overwhelmed with stress before exams. Another interesting observation is when we look at the year groups. And you can see here the number of students with lower well-being levels marked in yellow and red. And you may notice the increase in that numbers between years 8 and 9. And if we look for the drivers on the charts below, you can see that the year 9 students, they tend to skip breakfast more. They spend more time with their screens. And remember, this is the age they start to do social media. And they also sleep less. And the question here is, can we do something with the year 8 students today so that they don't experience that drop in the well-being level in the next 12 months? Now, I know that a lot of schools are already doing quite a lot on all these matters, but the power of the data is that it can focus us on the right directions and the right places, so hopefully we achieve a better result. So we looked at some of the results. Let's now talk about actions. And let's consider the sleep data that we saw before. So nearly 50% don't get enough sleep before school days. Now, it's always good to start by defining the goal of the intervention. In this case, to help students achieve 8 to 10 hours of uninterrupted sleep, which is the global recommendation for that age group. And when we look at the research, what the research found effective is to deliver sleep education programs. So to teach about the benefits of good sleep, how to develop good sleep hygiene, etc., and to deliver information to the parents. So the school in this case shared key findings of the survey with the parents, asking them to encourage positive behaviors at home, including promoting better sleep habits. Another example, this report details the questions around safety and belonging. And here the principal noticed that some boys of the younger year group reported that they don't feel comfortable in certain areas of the school. So she went and spoke with them about it, and they told her that in the boys' restroom, they don't feel enough privacy and that all their students pick on them. And for this, there is no evidence-based solution, so she went for the second best method, which is common sense, and she installed larger dividers between the urinals in the boys' restroom. Now, this solved the problem, but it actually did something more, because the students felt that their voice is heard, and parents felt that the school goes, out of its way to care about their children, and the overall impact was much greater than just solving that particular problem. One last example. This is an individual student report, and what's interesting here is that you may see that the scores that calculated from the teacher and the parents are fairly high, while the students communicate something completely different. And we see cases like that in many schools. So that could be a student that has good grades, no behavioral issues, no complaints, everything looks okay, but the survey indicates that the student might seek for help. And cases like this were referred to the school counselor for further investigation. And when we speak about early detection of difficulties, this might be such case. So we've seen the 3 steps, but there is actually one more step, and that is to come back and measure again after several months, because by turning the measurement into a routine practice, we can see, not only can see the trends, but we can also evaluate the effectiveness of the interventions. Now, before I conclude, I would like to say a few words about how we started and share a little credit. So it all started in 2021 with a question posed by the head of the primary school in St. George's, Mrs. Claire Nutter, hello, to my partner and co-founder, Schoolmait. And the question was, it was still during COVID time, and the question was, how do our students do? How do they cope? What is their well-being? And this question sent Schoolmait to search for answers and tools. And she came back with a methodology that you just saw. And the exercise was so powerful that we decided to create Schoolmait so that more schools can do it in an easy and affordable way. And I will leave you with a quote from Peter Drucker: if you want to improve something, measure it. I hope this was useful. Thank you very much.